I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'll call on Councillor Sentence to read the land acknowledgement statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandronk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis and Inuit people across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The City of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Sentence. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councillor Hanley and Councillor O'Hare. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. St. Patrick's Day. On behalf of City Council, I would like to thank our community partners for the implementation of a very successful St. Patrick's Day strategy involving communications and enforcement. Brock University, Niagara College, BUSU, bylaw enforcement from the City of Thorold, City of St. Catharines, and the Niagara region, as well as the Niagara Regional Police Service and Brock University off-campus patrol, all work collaboratively to ensure an early presence in all areas and enforcement throughout the day. Great team effort, and a special thank you to Jason Simpson, Director of Development Services, and his team for coordinating our efforts. Winter parking reminder. As a reminder to residents, the city introduced an on-street parking ban as part of our updated winter maintenance program, which may be declared when a winter weather event is approaching or occurring. When an on-street parking ban has been declared and/or lifted, the city will communicate this on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts, as well as our website. Residents are encouraged to subscribe to the emergency alert banner on our website to receive the most updated information, including an on-street parking ban being declared and lifted, directly to their email inboxes. I would like to remind residents of the following penalties: $100 ticket for parking on the street and interfering with snow removal, even if an on-street parking ban has not been declared. $50 ticket for parking on the street when a parking ban has been declared. For more information on our winter maintenance program and on-street parking ban, visit our website at thorold.ca/winter. To subscribe to receive alerts, visit subscribe.thorold.ca/subscribe. World Autism Day is April 2nd. World Autism Day is observed annually on April 2nd. The purpose of this day is to raise awareness and promote acceptance of people with autism spectrum disorder. It is also an opportunity to tear down misconceptions and false notions about disability. The City of Thorold is proud to support this important day on Friday, March 31st, by wearing blue and illuminating our City Hall exterior in blue. Thank you to our community partner, Bethesda, for providing us with the blue t-shirts. And you all received the blue t-shirt, and these are the blue t-shirts provided to us by Bethesda, which we'll all wear proudly on World Autism Day. So I'd like everybody to be able to see them. Every year, Meals on Wheels providers across Ontario participate in March for Meals, an annual event to increase awareness and community engagement with local Meals on Wheels providers. This campaign is intended to generate public awareness. This year, Councillors Ken Sentence and Tim O'Hare will be participating in hot meal delivery across the City of Thorold. I attended and spoke at the National Basketball League opening ceremony held at the Walker Sports and Ability Centre at Canada Games Park on Sunday, March 19th. They had approximately 20 teams participating in 3 divisions. Congratulations to all those involved and best of luck for future success with this event. School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day in Ontario. March 22nd Wednesday, March 22nd is School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day in Ontario. On behalf of City Council, I would like to thank the City of Thorold's crossing guards for the great service they provide to our community. They brave all inclement weather conditions to ensure our children and residents are able to safely reach their destination. Once again, thank you for your continued dedication, not only on Crossing Guard Appreciation Day, but every day. On Thursday, March 2nd, CAO Manoj Dalwaria, Economic Development Manager Ken Schultens, and I attended the Ministry of Transportation's virtual engagement session on the Ontario Marine Transportation Strategy Development, hosted by the Honourable Hardeep Grewal, Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Transportation. This session focused on the Greater Golden Horseshoe and allowed us to comment on the importance of developing this strategy and the opportunities it could bring to the Thorold Multimodal Hub. On Friday, March 3rd, I attended the Correction Care's check presentation to Community Care at their Albert Street location in Thorold. The correction officers from the Niagara Detention Center Local Union, Correction Care's fundraiser barbecue raised $1,000 and 167 pounds of food. Well done, and thank you for supporting Community Care. On Saturday, April 8th, Port Robinson Community Center will be hosting their Easter egg hunt and breakfast. Please visit their Facebook page for more details and our social media feeds for other events being held on Easter weekend. On behalf of City Council and staff, enjoy a safe and happy Easter weekend with family and friends. This year it runs from April 7th to April 9th. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. And up next we have presentations and the Thorold Housing Group. And I'd like to welcome them to tonight's meeting. And Bill Vanderklip, One Thorold Housing Committee, you're up first, I guess, or your crew. Please give us your name, and you don't have to give us your address, but your group, One Thorold, we know.
Sorry, can you just, there we go, press the button. Thank you.
We good? Sorry, okay. Good evening, Mayor Ugolini and City Councilors. We're here tonight as Thorold Housing Committee, a sub-branch of One Thorold. On our committee, we have here tonight Bill Vanderklip, who's a business owner in Thorold, Terrence Shilstra, who's a pastor of the Table, Fred Neal, who's a former City Council member, Lori Beach, the Executive Director of Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, and myself, Carrie Cottage, resident and business owner here in Thorold. We appreciate being able to be here tonight. It is with collective concern that we come to you tonight as fellow members of this beloved community, Thorold, with a proposal for a supportive housing development project that is desperately needed in our city. This is a well thought out project and is in collaboration with Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, whose executive director again is here tonight. We draw your attention to the fact that this proposal project meets federal, provincial, regional, and municipal priorities for affordable housing, and is also a viable and important response to the state of emergency concerns expressed by this council last year. According to an article published online by the Niagara Independent, a state of emergency was declared in early June of last year, unanimously by this council. A quote from our mayor in that article expressed the need for, quote, all levels of government to work with community partners to spur the necessary change that is desperately needed, end quote. This project is a fantastic model of just that, municipal government working in transformational ways with experienced community partners to greatly impact our community. As the proposal is presented in detail tonight, we would ask that you listen also with your hearts. As leaders on council, we ask that you consider your neighbors, the families of Thorold, the children of Thorold around you, and recognize that you have, as you sit there, the ability to create change in the community. The chairs that you sit in are chairs of influence and decision-making that will affect the people of Thorold for years to come. This is an opportunity to positively steward the resources and land of this city, not just for municipal monetary accumulation, but also for the sake of investing in this community and the people that live in it. We all want a thriving Thorold. Thorold is a collection of almost 24,000 people, many of those in need, and many underhoused or living in dire circumstances. And the need is increasing by the day as we sit here tonight. This project is a significant opportunity to take a large step in community transformation in Thorold. It is a large opportunity to bring the written policy declarations, federal, provincial, and regional, into fulfillment in Thorold. We encourage you to be part of transformational change in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And now, Bill, you're up next.
Yeah, I'd like to continue with a few more nuts and bolts. Thank you all, councilors, Mr. Mayor, for allowing us to speak to you. I'll have the next slide, please, Matthew. The Thorold Housing Group, our mandate is quite simple. We would like to provide housing for the homeless and single-parent families in the community, and I will highlight that need in a few more minutes. We would like to do so with the Housing First model, which says that recent studies have indicated that you don't wait till people straighten out their lives. You provide them a home. You provide them a firm base, and then they can straighten up their lives. That's been that. We, as a group, will like to work with local partners and government people to ensure that that housing is provided. And the need is just growing because, as we all know, there's competition for in the housing market from so many buyers that have come into Niagara from outside of the region. Next slide, please. So in the region wide, there's 13.3% of the households that are deemed to be in core housing need. And as that box indicates there, core housing need is when housing falls below at least one of adequacy, affordability, and suitability standards. And the next slide. And so those standards indicate that either the housing is too small for the size of house for the household, it's not adequate, it needs significant repair, it's not in good condition, or affordability, which means that a family or a household is paying more than 30% of its income for the housing needs. Next slide. The red box highlights Thorold. Thorold is also at 13% of its community that's deemed in need. That's a significant number of folks. We have people in need in our community. And the next slide just kind of breaks it down a little bit again, coming up to that total of 971. I'd like to point out, though, that this data is a little bit dated, and I have since received an update from the region of Niagara, which indicates that the needs in Thorold are up to 1,250 homes. 1,250 households, folks, with inadequate, unsuitable, unaffordable houses. And that would, in the next slide, please, Matthew, which just kind of breaks it down again. Again, those numbers, 869, 97 is from the old study. The new study is saying that, in total, there are 1,137 single or roommate households or 118 lone parent families that don't have suitable housing. Next slide. So in terms of our housing group, we have the support and the collaboration of Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, which already have homes and buildings that are meeting the needs of people in need, people in housing needs. And we have had conversations with Rankin Construction saying that they would love to support a community initiative in Thorold. Now, we will, given the fact that this has been an ongoing process, we haven't had those recent communications. We trust that they are still in support of that. Next slide. So why are we here this evening? The city of Thorold has a piece of property, 4 acres of land sitting right next to the canal, just at the corner of St. David's Road and Wellington Street. That's outlined in that area. There's a lot of potential there to build that housing. It's ideally situated. If we would build a housing project there, it's easily accessible to community services and within the city of Thorold. The next slide, it's just an overview of it. You can see how the area is overgrown. This is a property that could easily be allocated. And we come to council with several recommendations. One is, the next slide please, Matthew, that this city-owned property off of St. David's Road East be designated, that it be reserved for development as a Thorold Housing Group initiated housing project for those in the Thorold community with those housing needs that are deemed by inadequate and unsuitable. So that's the first suggestion to the council, that this property be designated, that it be reserved, that it not be go to some other group at some point in time, that we respond as a community to those needs. Recommendation 2 is the next slide, saying that the city council of the Council of Thorold directs city staff to research and draft a long-term lease agreement. We're not looking for this property to be purchased by our group. This property, we suggest, should remain in city's hands, that a long-term lease agreement, which has been done in other communities, and that the housing project be under the leadership of the Thorold Housing Group, who's collaborating with the Bethlehem Housing and Support Services, and has the agreement, the verbal agreement from Rankin Group to develop it, if that, or we have other supporters in the wings. And the third recommendation is that the city assist in whatever means it can to reduce the expense of the development. There are municipal tools that it can focus on this project and incentives. They can minimize the obstacles to development, and there can be reduction in permit fees. I'd like to point out that, we're not asking for a major capital outlay. We're not suggesting a major capital outlay. We have supporters that we are hope that can come on stream for this project. What we're saying is this community, represented by you as councillors, lend its support to addressing the increasing and growing needs of the underprivileged in our community. And we've given you a couple of key points in there. We think we're a good group to do so. We have these connections with Bethlehem Housing and Support Services. We have the verbal agreement from Rankin. We have a piece of land in our community, folks, that is very suitable to this project. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Carrie, for your presentation. And I'm going to open the floor now to questions from our councillors. Councillor Sentence, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you, Carrie and Bill. Great presentation. I love what your group does. So what you need from us is to re-engage with city and staff to present this new lease, to come up with some ideas that can maybe get us going on this project. Is that what you need tonight?
Yes, this property has been in city hands for many, many years.
Right.
It's unused at this point in terms of anything, profitably or a good focus for that land. And we're suggesting that the city dedicate that land for a housing project, and that they would arrange a long-term lease arrangement, because our group can't go forward to the next step unless we've got a piece of property.
Okay, so we got to talk again and see what we can do with this.
Correct.
Would that be, is that in the form of a motion or a direction, or?
I'll turn it over to City Clerk.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, the matter isn't actually on the floor tonight. This is just a presentation. However, what staff can do is they could certainly put a motion forward directing staff to provide additional information on how to go forward, which would put it on at a future meeting.
So they can start to talk again. Okay. So that would be notice of motion later? Or is that just a motion?
You can provide notice of motion, but because of the presentation, you could pass, it would be in order for a motion tonight to ask for information. So ask for an information report only.
Staff report.
A staff report.
That's correct.
Addressing the items listed in their presentation.
Could I ask for that then, or?
We can put that motion on the floor. Can I get a seconder from that, Councillor D'Angelo? Okay, so first of all, let me continue on with questions to the presenters, then we'll deal with questions to the motion. Can we have, is there further questions to the presenters, or do we want to start talking about the motion on the floor? Do you have a question for the presenter, Councillor D'Angelo?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have questions. The reason I have questions is because if we're getting a staff report, I want to have it comprehensive. So they have as much information coming back to council to make decisions a little easier for us. And I just have a couple questions regarding this piece of property. I know you highlighted this one. Is there any other properties in Thorold that you highlighted as other potential sites, or is the focus just on this piece of land at this present time?
Well, because of our connection with Bethlehem Housing Support Services and Lori, who's here, there are certain criteria that you need to fulfill in order to be eligible for a housing project, to deal with Central Mortgage and Housing Group and so forth. This property seems to be kind of an ideal one. It's easily accessible to downtown services, it's easily accessible to transportation services, and we think that this is a community-owned property. If we have to start bidding on a property, you recognize that when you deal with affordable housing, if your input costs increase, it just becomes less and less affordable because of what we would have to charge the tenants down the road.
Yes, thank you through Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the answer. I'm quite knowledgeable of housing. I've sat on Niagara Regional Housing for 12 years, and we've done numerous projects throughout St. Catharines, and we've partnered with Bethlehem several times. So it's great partnerships come out of good coordination. And Thorold hasn't seen any affordable housing or even attainable housing in the last 5 years that have been built here. So definitely we need partners looking at it. But I just want to make sure this is the right piece of land that you can move forward, because I know we've looked at this in the past. There's been contamination issues there. There's been floodplain issues there. I just want to make sure there's enough land there to do a type of project that would be feasible. But I want to go one step further. That's an area that has some commercial or industrial properties. Some of them are abandoned. And this is through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe not a direct question to you, but just to make sure it's included in the staff report. How can we make this a comprehensive plan for the whole area, not specifically this piece of land? There's industrial lands that we should move them out of that area because it's really residential and it's across some mixed use issues. So for me, I'd like to see if there's any potential of the Lamco property, which is abandoned, and then the Wellington property, which is the old Torah property. I'm not sure if it's being utilized or not, but those are adjacent pieces of property I think that have to be further reviewed or looked at, so that might be a more comprehensive plan here. Because I know back in 2008, there was a developer who came in with a huge comprehensive plan.
Let's just stick to questions right now, please.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that...
Well, when we do the report, then you can
okay.
address those. Let's get this done, so then we can talk on the motion.
Sure, that's... Yeah, my basic question was if there's any other lands in Thorold, if we're going through this process, to put that on the table now, to do some further research, because I think there's some work that has to be done. So right now, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the presenter, you're just focusing on this one, and that's the one you sort of want council to highlight at this point in time.
We can, I can just clarify that we did have conversations with other possible places in the community and with city staff as to what kind of properties might be available. There was a very tentative proposal for the use of this particular property. It came from a city staff member, and which seemed to really fill our needs. We understand that there's 2 levels of environmental studies already completed on the property, and in our conversation with the Rankin Group, they have indicated that they have specialists on their staff who know how to deal with those kinds of issues and would facilitate us cleaning up a property.
Okay, that's an excellent answer. I just don't want us falling behind, finding out this property may not suit the bill, and then we've lost time, right? So I'd like to parallel something if possible, but if we can't, then stick with this one. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Any further questions? Go ahead. I've got Councillor DeRose, and then I'll go to Councillor Longo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Bill McCary, excellent presentation. I support your endeavors in every way I can. Good to see Terrence and Fred here tonight helping. Such a great group, what you guys do for the community. I try to get involved with some of your activities. A lot of great people. And now, Bill, the one question I have is, do you have a timeline for this? Is this time sensitive? Do you have a timeline as to when you think you'd want to get shoveled to ground?
Councillor DeRose, we are responding actually to a kind of a loose survey that we did through One Thorold 3 or 4 years ago, when we had representatives from different agencies and groups in the community that spoke to our group. A recurring theme that came to us was, we need housing for the people. We've got people that we're giving them food, we're helping them find jobs, they don't have housing. And so yes, there's a timeline. It should have been 3 years ago.
Thanks for the answer, Bill. I can relate something I'm going to bring up later tonight. Just talking about exactly what you're talking about. I've been trying to help some homeless people find a place, so it's almost impossible. Thank you.
It's difficult.
Thank you, Councillor DeRose. Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to presenter. Bill, thanks for the presentation. A couple of my questions have been already asked. What type of housing would you propose for this area? Would it be an apartment complex or single-family houses? What do you envision?
We're looking for a residential complex, mixed housing. Our dream is that this would become a community where there's a built-in accountability when people know each other, when there's neighbors, and then people help each other. So we're going to see some single units. We're hoping for some lone parent units. We're hoping even for 1 or 2 family units. Our dream at this point in time is 40 to 60 units in this housing complex with community services on site. We'd like to have the main floor with some common area and some offices for community services so that it not only serves, of course, the tenants of this, but it's in our community for whoever may need it.
Okay, thanks for that. And can you explain how the funding model works for this? Do you work with Niagara Regional Housing? Is it regional money, provincial money, federal money? How would this be accomplished?
I wish I could answer that definitively. Everybody says, before you come to talk to us, you got to have a piece of property on the table. So if we can have assurance from this community that there's a piece of property that they will dedicate to this, then we will have a much better concrete proposal. Bethlehem Housing has worked with these kinds of situations in the past. They know the documentation that needs to take place. They know what it takes to satisfy the requirements of Central Markets and Housing Group and what's going on at the region. And we're just relying on that collaboration to guide us as we go forward.
Okay, and I think my final question is, you talk about a long-term lease for the property. Why wouldn't you want to own it? Is there a reason?
We were informed by city staff that if we were to acquire, so to speak, that there's a protocol in this city that properties that are deemed unnecessary to the city in terms of its ownership have to go for public tender, have to go out for proposal. We can't compete for property like that, buy it in today's current market, and still provide affordable housing. Our thought is that let's keep it in the community sense. Let's show that we as a community are willing to allocate something to the needs of these people.
Okay, great, thanks. I guess those are questions we can bring up when a report comes back. We'll ask staff the technicalities and legalities.
It's our understanding that the community of St. Thomas already has done this for some of the housing projects, so there might be precedent set there.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully, when the report's done, maybe we can get all that information tied in also, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Are there any further questions before we talk about the motion? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Vanderclip. It was excellent, really well informed and well done. My question is, and you just touched on it just as you were finishing your discussion with Councillor Longo, and that is regarding the long-term lease in other communities. You mentioned St. Thomas. Is this long-term lease arrangement that has been practiced before, specifically for affordable housing complexes, let's say?
I don't have the final details on it, but my understanding is that the information came to me for somebody who works on this type of needs in communities. And it was a passing comment that the city of St. Thomas had done a housing project fairly recently, and it was on city property, and it was a long-term lease arrangement.
So as far as you know, there are no cities or towns in the Niagara region that is currently practicing this?
Not to the best of my knowledge, but
Okay.
it strikes me that maybe these things have to be explored given given land
That's a
values.
good point. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Dividite.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Bill and Carrie, I just want to say this is a great presentation. I know it takes a lot of work. You guys put a lot of work into this, and Thorold really needs it, and I commend you for doing this.
Thank you.
Any further? Okay, we have a motion. And the motion is that you've asked for a staff report to address the issues in the 3 items that they brought to the table, plus anything that we want to add to that, okay? Okay, and I had Councillor D'Angelo as the seconder on that motion. Okay, so now I'll open the floor for discussion, and if anybody wants to add something to that, so that when we get a wholesome report back. So is there any questions regarding that? Go ahead, Councillor DeRoe.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor to staff. Had staff previously had any consideration for anything of this property, or was it just going to sit there? If anybody could answer. I know it's a tough question to answer. It's kind of open-ended, but.
Jason, do you want to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can make an attempt. I would say that the city is undergoing their asset management plan right now. So I wouldn't say that there are any plans at this point in time that I'm aware of. I think the right thing to do would be to wait till the asset management plan was completed so we could look at it more comprehensively.
Thank you, Jason.
Councillor O'Hare, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if we can ask staff if they can explore other communities that may be using this formula that they're requesting with the long-term lease, to see if there is any other information out there available to us.
Okay, so that'll be included, and you've captured that. That's good. Did you want to add, Councillor D'Angelo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, definitely, I would like to see in the report, when it comes back, what actually can be used for residential purposes, because I know there's a bit of a floodplain there. There's the contamination issue that can be dealt with, but at least come back with how much actually acreage that can be used. That helps the proponents design a building that can suit that. As I mentioned earlier, there's some industrial properties there. Some are abandoned, some may still be used. I think we need to look at a comprehensive plan there to see what can be done with those properties, how they can be maybe attached to this, or something happen with those properties, especially if there's, and I'm throwing Rankin, if they're possibly going to be helping with the contamination, if they could help with some of the other, maybe even the removal of the abandoned building, and open up more free land in that same area. So it may not be adjacent, but it may be nearby, and again, it's running as one project. Thorold Nonprofit Housing does this. They have apartments, they have buildings, they have houses. They're all in different places of our community, but they're still under one umbrella when they're being run. So I'd like to see a little bit of exploration there, and what can be done, what can't be done, into enhancing this potential opportunity. Also the zoning, what can be put in there in terms of the density and how it'll fit into the neighborhood. So I'd like to see all that stuff come back in the report. And any other examples similar to what Councillor O'Hare mentioned, if there's other leased properties, how that mechanism works, and what's been done in other communities. So
okay.
Those are the things I could think of right at the moment. If there's others, I can always email staff before the reports comes forward.
Okay, so we've got those duly noted, and that motion's on the floor. So is there any further discussion? And staff will bring back a wholesome report and address the concerns that have been added. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Once again, I want to thank Bill, Carrie, and the group for coming to council this evening. And it's good to see former councillor Neil there. How are you, Councillor Neil? Okay, thank you so much. Items for consent. Can I get a mover and seconder first for the items for consent, and then we'll just see who wants to pull what. I got a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Dividitis. Are there any items under these consent items that we want to pull and have a discussion? Yeah, I see your hand up. Go ahead, Councillor DeRoe.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, 11.9.
11.9. Yep. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare. Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo, and then Councillor Decker.
11.6.
11.6. And go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 11.11, PWCS 21.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So. Yeah, this one here, I don't see it on the list. Is there a reason? It says 11.3 and then 11.5 to
Oh, it's on there, don't worry. Yeah, it's included. I've got it in the motion.
Okay, so I can include that.
Yeah, it's included.
It's included?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's first of all do 11.1 through 11.8, excluding 11.6. So we're going to do 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.7, 11.8, and 11.10. Okay, all those in favor? What? Go ahead.
Did you say 11.4? I just want to make a comment on 11.4.
Yeah, go ahead. You can make a quick comment, and then we'll.
Well, it's just the appointment of Tony, if I got the right report here, it's the appointment of the Tony Vandermast to be appointed as town crier. He's been doing it for over 20 years, and I just wanted to comment, he's done a fabulous job throughout those years. He cries for our community quite well, but.
He doesn't need a microphone either.
He doesn't. He tends to be older. He's been a figure that's been at every historical designation over the past 20 years, and he does a wonderful job. Really adds to the character of the event. I just want to highlight that. So I know a lot of these reports we just passed.
No, but that's a point well taken,
but,
Councillor
and I
D'Angelo.
know he's out here, so let's try to make him turn red. But he does a great job, and he's been involved in our community for a long time.
Thank you. So 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5, 11.7, 11.8, and 11.10. All those in favor? I had a mover and a seconder. Opposed? That's carried. And let's hear it for our town crier, Tony Vandermast. Okay, so now we got 11.6. CLKC 42-2023, and I'll turn it over to our city clerk. Do you want?
Yep, I'll just pull it up, sorry. Okay, Mr. Mayor, that essentially the correspondence item be received. This was a request that came through a motion passed by the Runway of Recognition Subcommittee that the subcommittee members, singular inductee recipients of the various awards, the White Family Scholarship winners, receive complimentary tickets to the Runway of Recognition Awards ceremony. That was the motion passed by the Runway of Recognition Subcommittee. It's been through its pass of them before council for approval.
Okay, and Councillor D'Angelo, you pulled that one, correct?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just questioning why it's here. Do they not produce their own budget and then work within that budget? Like, to me, this is sort of a small thing that they're bringing forward. So are we going to see all the decisions? Like, are we going to see how much the ticket prices are? Like, are all those things, like, I'm new to council regarding this particular item coming to council. That's why I'm questioning, like, why is it here? Shouldn't it just be part of the budget and they just move forward with it?
I think it's because they changed their, it's a change. No, is it not? Okay, I'll turn it over to the clerk.
So, Mr. Mayor, their budget is approved by council as part of a report. Usually this is done annually and towards the beginning of the year. Due to the startup of committees and election this time around, committees took longer to get together, so the motion or the report coming forward on the committee budgets won't be till the next meeting. So because they don't have an approved budget as of yet, this is a budget item that they're asking for approval. The only other item that'll come before council is the approval of the actual nominations.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, so I'm just, the way I understand, it's just a pre-approval of their budget, and they're just making sure that they have confirmation they can do this prior to moving forward.
Prior to their whole budget.
That is correct.
Is this considered a city-run event then?
As a committee of council, Mr. Mayor, it's a council event, a council committee. Yes.
It is a council, okay, all right. That's, I was just looking for clarity of why this particular item was here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I had a mover and seconder on that. We'll use the same mover and seconder for all these. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. PWCS 20-2023, Letter of Municipal Significance, 2023 Canada Day Weekend. Who pulled that particular item? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Thanks, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask, put something out there for discussion. Just because we do have a close proximity bar owner, and just wanted to get some input. The alternative reviewed by staff just asked, may choose to host a dry Canada Day event at council's discretion. So I just wanted to get some more info from staff as to why, that was put in it. The one thing I could see is it would take away from the downtown, people going downtown for a drink. But I'm just curious, and I'd like to get my fellow councilors' feedback on that. Thank you.
I don't know why that's in there. Go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think in looking at the alternatives, because it's a two-day event, the first day being more of a family day type of event, there was a thought that perhaps there might be some interest in having an alcohol-free day during the entire event. The second day is more music in the park, a little more casual, and it has traditionally been alcohol served at these events. So they're just alternatives for council's consideration, and we're happy to take your direction.
Yeah, I can just say, Jeff, that the first day, they've never opened the bar till all the kids' events were done in the afternoon, so the bar didn't open till later in the day, but I'll open the floor, and I got Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment here when staff moves forward with trying to select, how's it worded here, an experienced vendor to serve alcohol. I know in the past we had volunteers do it for a community group, and the community group no longer does it. Last year it went to, I believe, a private company to do, but after that event last year, I had members of the local community, and it was the Thorold Legion, and they asked if they would be considered next time this came up to see if the option would be there for them. They, as you know, Mr. Mayor, they have a big budget item and a new roof they're trying to fund, and this would be a good way to have some community support in a roundabout way. So if we could look at that, I would appreciate it.
Okay. That was, I think what happened last year is that with the normal group that was running it dropped out at the last minute, and we had a local business that stepped up to the plate. So, but anyway, a point well taken. Councillor D'Angela, and then I got Councillor Decker after that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to give a bit of brief history, especially for Councillor DeRose, why when this first started back in 2006, this was one of the initiatives I had as mayor. We had the Mayor's Canada Day picnic for the first 4 years, and I know Councillor Hanley was here too, who supported it. It never had alcohol there, so it's been one of the past practices of not serving alcohol on the Canada Day. But then once it got tied into the Blues Festival, it sort of morphed a little bit. So that's why I think staff is just recognizing some of the past practices that were done. I would prefer that they don't serve alcohol during the family hours, and that money that usually goes to security fencing could be put towards family events. But if they want to serve it later in the evening, when the music becomes a little different, not really geared to the smaller children and families, then I'm agreeable to something like that. So I wouldn't want to see this being served all day.
So what happened, just to clarify, that the bar traditionally on Canada Day has been open later in the day, and the bar area was fenced in, and you couldn't walk around the park with alcohol. On the second day, they moved the fence and the park was open. So there was very strict restrictions put on during Canada Day that it didn't start till later, and the bar area was fenced in, and you had to have be of age to even enter that area. So that's what happened there. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My mayor would be, Mr. Mayor, is through you to staff. We have a new alcohol policy coming forward, or do we? Because on June the 1st, I believe it is, anybody who had Smart Serve previously would be grandfathered in. That ceases to exist as of June 1st. Anybody that's serving alcohol that may have been Smart Serve before has to take a new course now because of the indulgence of marijuana. So they have to be not only knowledgeable about the consumption of alcohol, but also take a course or a new Smart Serve in regards to marijuana. So I know it's July 1st, but I know in the past volunteers had helped there, but as of June 1st, I believe it is, anybody that's behind that bar serving has to be certified with the new Smart Serve course, or you're not allowed to even be in the area of serving alcohol. So if we're gonna have a policy, I don't know if we do. I think we had mentioned that, Jason, maybe through you to Jason, did we? Or who it may have been, did we discuss that just a little while ago where it's brought up? Because I do believe we're gonna have to address our alcohol policy in the city. I believe the last time it might have been done when Tom Doherty was here, and it was done then, and when Smart Serve first come out. So I think, if I could, Mr. Mayor, I know who I could give direction to, but I think someone should look into how the rules in serving alcohol are gonna change in 2023.
We can make sure that gets addressed. Well, between Jason and the city clerk, can you check what the regulations are on that? Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Dividines.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, they started serving on the Family Day 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it's a good policy maybe to not serve till then, but after 4, you get a lot more adults in the park, a lot more people, and you have to be like every other festival. They're all serving, and you got a big wide range of people going there. And I do like what Mr. Longo said, if we can get the Legion involved, there's some good money to be made there if it's done properly. And with the Smart Serve, that's standard on everything. And so they're all going to have Smart Serve as part of getting your liquor license.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Sentz.
No, Councillor DeRose just asked for, through you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the later at night on the one day and then open on the other day. So I like that system. That's all.
Which is what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 1111, Canada Day Weekend Request for Proposal Award, PWCS 21-2023. You pulled this one?
Did, Mr. Mayor, thank
yes,
you.
okay.
I pulled the report. First of all, I just want to say thank you for putting the report together. I guess when this was brought up at budget to have an events coordinator for the upcoming events that we were talking about, July 1st and Santa Claus Parade, I'm just having some confusion here. I was under the assumption that we were looking to hire a contract event planner, perhaps one person that would work with maybe the past committees and the Blues Festival to run the event. So I didn't, looking at this proposal, it looks like we're looking to hire a more of a consulting firm. Is that what we're looking at here, Jeff? Or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Decker's right. During the budget deliberations, there was discussion about hiring a full-time employee to help coordinate and deal with some of the issues that Councillor Handley and some of the other councillors raised with respect to the rules of how we conduct our business events. So the alternatives were to either hire a contract employee who would provide those particular services, or to hire a contract firm who would come in and take on those responsibilities and the liability and provide the organization services. The tender in front of you is for the latter, because, and I apologize if I misunderstood the conversation at budget time, but I thought the movement was to move away from hiring a staff person, whether it be on contract or otherwise, and see what the private sector had to offer and what the cost of those services might be.
So I guess my concern is that if we do this, that it'll take away from our local musicians and maybe our local businesses that maybe participate in the Canada Day weekend, like running the bar, the people that run the Blues Festival. Perhaps maybe they won't be involved, and I think that's what we wanted. I think we wanted, because I know hiring this contract event coordinator, maybe perhaps down the road it could turn into, a full-time position with everything that's going to be happening over the next 4 years or so. So I would like to see it as an event planner, per se, working with our local businesses, and maybe, and they would have to do the work, like they would have to do the bulk of the work, and you know, maybe working with the people that ran the Blues Festival and, you know, our local bands and stuff. So perhaps maybe I can get some feedback from other council, if that's what they thought as well.
Councillor Sentence?
Yeah, I know what we asked. Down the road, we may have to hire this person. I wasn't against it necessarily a budget, but that being said, if we're going to do this, I would like to see some local content in it. I'm sorry if I didn't speak well when I spoke at budget, but I would like to see the blues people involved in this, and the Legion would be great and everything like that. If we can direct these people to do that, that'd be great. If not, then we do something like this and have the blues people do the music and all that sort of thing. And can we do the rest in-house that's already set up or not? Again, I'm looking for other suggestions that we might have out there as well. So
Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
apologize if I misspoke.
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think the intent here is to get the consultant on board to share the information we've had about past events, and then to direct the event plan through the Special Event Advisory Committee, who can give the consultant some more direction on what the expectations of the community might be here, including local services.
Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo, and then Councillor DeRose after that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What might be helpful for myself is I see in the report here there was 4 proponents, and they were all weighted and scored, but like there's really, I'm like the other 2 councillors. I think we need some local content in there. Like, are any of these, well, the only one has Niagara in its name is the 3rd one. So I don't really, like, without going on Google and researching all these people, like, are any of these local? Are they individual organizations, or are they big, like is Absolute XM, never heard of it. Are they a big firm that's just gonna send someone down from Toronto to run this, or are they gonna do it from Toronto? If you could maybe elaborate on some of the individual ones, because there wasn't much of that information in the report that would be helpful to myself. Because I like the other 2 councillors, like unless you, these events, they really have to touch the local businesses, the local organizations to really make them successful. And I use the example of when the city moved from the Blackhawks running the ads on the boards to a company outside Niagara doing it, the revenues dropped substantially because they don't have the connections here. They don't know who supports community events. And if you don't have that, it doesn't help to make it successful. We're trying to make this bigger and better all the time, and it's hard to do that when someone from Toronto is running this event. Sorry, they just have a different mindset.
Thank
But
you.
if I could get a little bit more info.
Dave, did you want to comment? I know, I looked it up. I know where they're from.
Good evening, through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Councillor D'Angelo is correct. Niagara Niche Tours is the only Niagara-based company that had bid for this tender. Absolute XM was the proponent that ran the 13 for 13 event this year at last year, 2022, for the Canada Games. Curated by them, they're out of Toronto as well, and I think Total Event Solutions, they're also not from Niagara.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Can I get some, like these other, can I get some pricing of, obviously we have the absolute numbers, the curated Niagara Niche Tours and Total Event Solutions, what were their amounts that they put in for their proposal cost-wise?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can get those numbers back to staff, back to council.
Okay. Is that something you could do this evening? Not to put pressure on you?
Yeah, a few minutes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'll let my fellow councilors ask more questions and
Councillor DeRose I had, and then
some time to
Councillor
get the
O'Hara.
numbers.
Councillor DeRose, you're up now.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks. Yeah, I like the report. We did say we didn't want to hire someone permanently, and I still would stick by that. Just, Jeff, just a question if you can answer. The alternative reviewed, could hire a temporary person for, it looks like, 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, it looks like. Is there, do you got a cost to that, or a ballpark figure, or no? And would that just be one, that would obviously be just one person?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Mayor, that's kind of the hybrid that Councillor Decker is speaking of. We had a budget of $50,000 set aside for that. Canada Day here is $35,000.
Plus HST.
If we were to bring on somebody from May to the end of the year, you're probably looking at, well, we could work within that number.
Within the 50 grand?
And then, expand the roles to help with some of these other events that are not city-run events, but maybe city-sanctioned events to help with the coordination, marketing, and that type of thing.
So you're saying within that 50 grand, you can?
Well, that's the number that we identified in the budget for special event services. If that's your preference, we could work that way. It's just the matter of whether we wanted to bring on an employee or you wanted to bring on a contractor to provide this service.
And it would just be a contract position for that time period?
It would be an employee contract for that period of time.
Okay. Jeff, is this time sensitive to get it passed tonight, or no?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, the tender has been closed. We can decide a number of things. We can defer a decision on it. We can cancel the tender. We can, or you could adopt a recommendation. We're getting close to that period of time where we need to line up the acts. We need to get all the permits, so on and so forth in place, and that takes a lot of time. So our next council meeting is 3 weeks away. It would be better if we could, but it's not impossible.
So your preference, though, is to just accept this as is, basically?
Well, however you wish to proceed. I mean, the later we make the decision, the more difficult it is for anybody to make all the necessary arrangements.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for my fellow councillors. I don't often like going backwards, but in this case, I like the alternatives that were reviewed. What it would mean is that we'd have someone local, someone who's invested in the community. We now have 3 events that we're covering. I think initially we weren't including the farmers market. We were looking at 2 events, so now we have 3. As we grow, we probably will add another. As Councillor DeRose just inquired, this is a contract period from May until December. It just seems to make sense that if we want someone who really understands the local acts, the local needs, then this might be the best solution.
Councillor Dividitis. Thank you, Councillor O'Hara. Go ahead, Councillor Dividitis.
I'd like to keep it local myself and try to get somebody in around the Niagara to help us run these events. I think if we bring this company in, I'm just afraid like every aspect will be gone. And I saw what happened in Montebello Park with the Toronto boys come down, they ruined it. And I think we should control it ourselves like we did last year, just for now, just to cut the costs down. And I know Stephanie did a bang-up job last year, and I think it went over great last year. And some of the acts, we can just make a phone call and just reserve them now. The tent's pretty easy to get reserved. The bar, the Legion can do it. The security company is a phone call. All those things can happen pretty quickly. And they're all looking for work, a lot of these people on that weekend. So I think maybe we should hold off on this.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Longo and then back to Councillor Decker, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Holman. How confident are you that we could find somebody suitable for this role in a contract position?
We'll find somebody. I mean, we need, our staff have a lot of the experience and a lot of the connections, and you know, quite honestly, we'll be sharing a lot of that information with whoever's assigned to do this work. It's just a matter, I guess, of posting the position and going through the proper references. That might take, you know, a month, but at least we'll have, you know, a local person who will have access to the local contacts.
Okay.
And help us, guide us through the process.
So you're not necessarily looking for an expert in this field, you're looking somebody to take direction from staff who've done this before. That's what we're looking for?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the format has been determined in the previous years, and a lot of the contacts with the bands, the bouncy castle and face painters and magicians and entertainers, I think a lot of that has already been established. We need to lock down those contracts really quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
So we need to move really quickly, if you know, regardless of which path we take. But if we know somebody who's local has those contacts, it might make the process a little easier for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll just make a comment, Mr. Mayor. Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I agree with Councillor O'Hara. You know, if this fits within our budget still, yet we keep it in-house, we keep it local, we keep control, right? And there's nobody to blame except ourselves if it doesn't work. So that would be what I would propose at this point.
Okay, I got Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to put a recommendation forward that we do that. Hire someone
Within the budgetary
budgetary means, someone more local that can work with these other local businesses, perhaps maybe the Blues Festival, etc., and see how that goes for Canada Day. And if we need to step it up for Santa Claus Parade and the farmers market, then we'll have to do that.
Okay, so we have a motion to move forward with the, go ahead.
Just some clarity from Councillor Decker. We're looking for somebody for all those events.
Yes, we are.
Correct? Yeah, okay.
Just like was explained, within that budgetary
Right.
50,000.
Right, so this isn't an experiment for Canada Day.
No.
This is for the
Year's
year.
events.
Yeah.
I got first Councillor Sentence. You're good, go ahead.
So the understanding is then we are going to cancel this contract that we have. We'll notify the vendors that they are not selected and we are not proceeding further. We have got 3 events, 2 days of Canada Day, Farmers Market, and also Santa Claus Parade. So based on the budget that we have, we will hire someone on contract who will able to help staff with those 3 events. I think that's what I understand.
Our local partner.
That's correct. So that's the understanding. So we will hire one person who will be working with the city staff and the local partners for all the 3 events.
Is everybody good with that? Okay, is everybody clear on that?
Perfect.
I have, and that'll be moved by Councillor Decker, and I need a seconder, Councillor Sentence. Did you want to comment, Councillor DeAngelo?
Well, yeah, that's, I thought that was part of the original discussion that we were moving during the budget process, that we weren't looking at specifically firms, but we wanted sort of an individual to put a contract in here. Are any of these individuals, or all these like multi-organizations? They're all organizations? So none of them are individuals. Okay. My concern is I don't want this falling back on staff doing this. The intent was pretty clear during budget that they're not meeting other obligations in other areas because there's only so much time. So if they're doing this, they're not doing something else. So
that's why this person will come in and alleviate that concern.
Yeah, I'm just a little like, to give them all 3 projects, well, it might sound good, but I don't know if they have the talents to do all 3. I guess that remains to be seen. But it's, I guess, a better direction than going with one of these outside firms. So we'll see. I guess, and that contract, again, will only be for this year. and they'll have to
To
come
be
back.
reviewed.
Yeah, and then some of the items that, through this discussion, that I really think we need to do is, when we do hire this person, I think we need some statistical data to see how these events are actually being run, the participation, some of the events that are happening, if they're good or they're bad. We need that feedback from a council perspective, because there's a lot of money going into this. We want it to be a success, and part of it may not be a success. Then that should be refocused so the funds go to an area where it makes it bigger and better. So I think that's critical. So to me, that should be part of the contracted position's role and responsibility. Also, just for clarity, is it going to be that contracted person's position to get the, because I know when you look at the Canada Day, there was additional funds that were secured. Whose responsibility is that going to be? Is that going to be the contracted position? Is that going to be city staff's position to get those extra funds? I sort of need a bit of clarity on that.
Are you talking about sponsorships?
Yes.
Sponsorships is traditionally, it's done through our staff, and there's a letter they draft, which I sign, that goes out by email to all our sponsors and any other sponsors we think that might be interested. And then they respond. It's all done by email.
So the individual that we're hiring will have nothing to do on the sponsorship side? They're just going to be running the event?
I'm not saying that there'll be nothing to do, but a lot of that, we've got to get out ASAP now.
Well, that's, Mr. Mayor, that's why I'm asking for clarity. I want this information coming back, so next year at budget time, we can make better decisions. I don't want to be sitting here next year and we don't know, with city staff that did all the fundraising, they spent X amount of hours doing it. Like, you could spend a whole day trying to fundraise and get no money. Like, that stuff has to be documented, so next year, this could be run a lot smoother, and we could
From the
focus on-
fundraising standpoint, the way that they have it down and the emails they send out, it's very seamless. And most of our sponsors contribute every year. They're like, the same ones always come back.
Mr. Mayor, but what I'm pointing out is you have to track time. Our CEO is mentioning and shaking his head. If you don't track time and you don't know what costs are associated with what you're doing, then how do you know if you're making money at it, or the sponsorships aren't even covering the cost that staff time is being used up to do it? These are the items I'd like to see in a report. I don't need them today. I need them after the event. I need a post-event reconciliation with some data on it, so I can make better decisions next year. I'm not asking for rocket science here, just asking now. So a year from now, I don't want anyone to be in this room saying, well, we didn't track that information. We don't know how many people attended. We don't know who did the this or that. I need that information. That's why I'm asking for it now. So staff is clear on that. I'm trying to help staff do their job better, more efficiently, but I need to know how much time they're putting into events so that we could either hire another person or say, okay, well, you can continue to do that because you have the capacity to do it. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that could be all part of the job description to start with, what their roles and responsibilities are. And then moving forward, we can track how much sponsors they brought in and how the event was successful. We can measure it. We should have the key performance indicators for that so that we can track that as well. Thank you.
That's excellent.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
I can just comment that in our last farmers market meeting, that was one of the things we talked about. We're going to form a matrix. We're going to do a survey. We're going to know what city cost is involved. We're going to know how much the sponsors are going to donate. We're going to know how many people are in attendance. We're going to ask specific questions through a survey. We're soliciting markets. Right now, we're soliciting farmers. We're going to start. The city's going to draft a letter. I believe it's going to be available April 3rd. We've been working with the mayor's office. I believe it's probably going to be presented in your office in the next week or so in regards to sponsorships, in regards to all events, Santa Claus Parade, the Canada Days festivities, as well as the farmers market. We're looking at doing a comprehensive review of where we're getting the money from, how the money's being spent, how many people are attending, what age groups are attending, what are the dislikes and likes. So we're actually doing what you asked, Councilor D'Angelo. We put a lot of work into the market, and we're trying to do it, and what you're bringing is a good point. We're actually doing that. We're going to form a matrix, so everything's tracked right down to it. So I had even brought it up for the simple fact that is, next year, if council comes to be in the budget, we may need more than 25,000, but in order to ask for that money, we need to show why we need that money and what was the reason for it. So we're actually going in that route for the market, and I know the Santa Claus Parade, and that's the initiative, and the Canada Day. We're gonna do a little bit something that hadn't been done before. We're talking with Stephanie on our last meeting. We're gonna start tracking, just as he says. So that's already in the works with Stephanie within the city and that stuff in coordination with Megan.
Cute. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Thorold.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just a question to staff. Does the region have someone full-time doing this, or several people doing this for the region? I'm just wondering if there's any possibility or light at the end of the tunnel in regard to shared services. You know, like how they have, okay. Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
not aware.
You're not aware?
I'm not
Manoj?
aware.
So usually the municipalities have their own special events coordinator. You know, Port Coburn, they do their canal days, so they have dedicated people. Other municipalities like Pelham, they do, I think, music in the park. They have dedicated people. So everybody has their resources. So what we will do is, as Councillor Handley has mentioned, we will track down all that statistics. I know that it will take some time for us to advertise. We can start the hiring process ASAP, but we don't want to lose the momentum. So the current staff will work with councillors, and then we will keep going at it. But once this position is there, they will take on the major responsibility, and they will be the point of contact, and they will be the ones who will be talking to the vendors, and they will be the ones who will be sole responsible. And then, as Councillor D'Antla has mentioned, we will track down so that we know that it was a good hire or not, so that moving forward, if we are adding more to it, we know exactly what we are getting out of that. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, just one last question or comment to the CAO. Is it possible after this is, I think we're in the right track here, but after this is over, this contract's over, is it possible from now till next year, next budget year, we look at maybe if Pelham's got someone that's doing it, like, we always talk about shared services. It's a no-brainer that they would have all the connections for everything, and I'm just curious if that might be open for discussion down the road, just in the long run. Just something to look at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly we can look into it, but what my understanding or discussion with the CEOs in the past, usually people have the resources which is to satisfy their own needs. But if there is some spare capacity, or if we can share some resources moving forward, we always try to find the opportunities in every area if we can share our resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've got the clerk here. So what we're going to now have is an amended motion, and I'll have the clerk put that up. And if you want to take over, go ahead.
So just to confirm with the mover and the seconder, Mr. Mayor, of the amendment, that's Councillor Decker and Councillor Sentence, so that staff be directed to hire an individual who is local to Niagara with experience in local event planning on a contract to assist staff with 3 events, Canada Day, Farmers Market, and the Santa Claus Parade, to work with local organizations and partners within the pre-approved budget.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't think so we can put who is local to Niagara, even though that's the intention, but I don't think so we can put that in the motion, in the report. Thanks.
So we'll remove that part and just put, we'll hire an individual, okay? And work with local partners. Okay, is everybody good with that? We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 11-12.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, that was just the amendment. You now need to approve the amended.
That was just the amendment. Now we have the full, the amended motion. Okay? I have the same mover and seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 11-12. CLK 5, 2023, Heritage Advisory Committee request for funding approval on Lock 25 designation research, and it was Councillor O'Hare who pulled that one. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council, I just want to say that we're very fortunate and blessed to be living in a city with such amazing history and heritage. Not everyone's so lucky. And LACAC's goal, Heritage Thorold's goal, is to protect, preserve, and promote. It's very important that we ensure that our heritage sites will be around forever. Council has always supported the Heritage Committee. There's always been a budget amount for heritage to continue with designations. Unfortunately, due to timing this year, the budget hasn't been brought to council for your approval. And as a result, we're a little bit behind the 8 ball because we would very much like to designate Lock 24 on Canada Day. Lock 24 was built in 1824, and you can think about the heritage that goes with that. We still have it. It's right in front of the band shell for those of you that don't know it. And so we thought it would be very appropriate if on this Canada Day we could designate it. So the reason that this report is coming to you is that we are requesting that this advance amount required be granted by council because of the time sensitivity. It takes a certain amount of time to complete the research. It takes a certain amount of time to advertise the intention to designate, as well as prepare for the designation. So I'm humbly going to ask you to grant this approval so that we can begin the work and meet our deadline of dedicating Lock 24 on Canada Day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Hare. We have the same mover and seconder. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, items for consideration. 12.1 DF4 2023 Water and Urban Service Area Budgets, and I'll turn this over to Maria Morrow, our Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before you this evening is the report on the water and urban service area budgets. This covers water, sanitary sewers, and sidewalks. The budgets and consumer rates are impacted by a few main drivers. The biggest driver is the water and sewer treatment costs from the region, which represent 67% of the total water and sewer bill. In order to accommodate the region's budget increase and our estimated flow volumes, this represents a 2% increase to our water treatment costs and an 18% increase to our sewer treatment costs. The other driver is the increase in capital provisions to maintain our water mains and sewer mains, and lastly, city maintenance and administration requirements. The report details the various impact from each of the categories. Water and sewer rates to the average user, which consumed 200 cubic meters in a year, will have a 1.8 increase for water and an 11.5% increase for sewer rates, for a blended 7.4% or $22 per quarter. There is no change recommended to the urban service area tax levy. In addition, there are a number of fees and charges that have been recommended to be increased to recover costs. The recommendations listed in the report are respectfully suggested for approval, and this concludes the overview.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you as always for a comprehensive report. And I'll open the floor for questions. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I do concur with you. It's an excellent report with a lot of information in it. Maria, Ms. Moore, you did an excellent job with it. Just a couple small little questions here. And I just want to pick your brain here, because it seems like we're really getting killed on these sewer rates from the region. It looks like from the report here, it's 17.7% increase. Is there anything we could do that, or this could even go to Mr. Holman, anything we could do to help mitigate some of that? Are we just getting too much inflows into the stormwater that's causing the sanitary sewer costs to go up? Is that what really driving this? Maybe give a little better understanding of that.
Go ahead, Maria, and then Jeff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly that is part of the issue. The infiltration was quite high this year, so we do see that will have an impact, because we are paying for the water to be treated due to infiltration. The other factor that we're seeing from a regional perspective is they say that their costs are fixed, and what they do is they look at 3-year averages, and they do that to allocate their fixed costs to the municipalities. And then from there, they look at the actuals year over year, and then there's a reconciliation done. So what we're seeing is, because we are growing so much faster than everyone else, we're assuming more of those fixed costs. So I think it's more of a combination of the two things, but certainly to your point, the infiltration is an issue that we struggle with, and unfortunately it is quite high. So we do have that additional expense.
So growth always isn't good. It's surprising, because you think with the growth it would actually average over more people down, but in our case, this reconciliation is getting way out of hand. 2021 is 1.2 million and 640,000 in 2022, and 600,000 in 2020. So definitely, this is something our regional councillor and our mayor should look at, trying to see if they can adjust this, especially we're being really impacted with the growth. We're trying to lead by setting some examples here, bringing more assessment in, but we're paying a huge price on this. So that was one of the questions. The other one I had was regarding, and it's more of a curiosity question. The budget for sidewalks is included in the water budget. Can you maybe give a little bit of a history on that? I had someone ask me that question, and I couldn't fully explain that to them.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually not part of the water, it's part of the urban service area. So what we do is we call it the sewer budget, but really what it is, it's the sanitary sewer in the urban service area. So we include the sidewalks there because they're, so we don't charge, the sidewalks are not recovered from the water sewer bill. There is still the 1.23 million of urban service area levy that supports partial funding to the sewer budget along with the sidewalk budget. So what that means is it's an area rated charge. So the rural residents won't get hit with the sidewalk charge, because it's only those residents within the urban service area that will pay for the sidewalk.
Thank you for that answer. Very good. I noticed it didn't go up in this year. Is it something that we're going to be looking at increasing? Because as we expand and we're expanding more sidewalks, is that an area that we should look at putting some more funding towards in the future? To you, Mr. Mayor.
Through Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor D'Angelo, there's a couple of things. Those missing sections of sidewalk and extensions that need to be built as a result of development will come through development charges. The sidewalks that need to be replaced come through this budget here, but there are some areas that are not in growth areas that need to have some additional sidewalk work done. We've looked at the condition of our sidewalks and built a 5-year plan to try and address a lot of those issues. Some aren't, don't meet AODA standards and things like that. So those are our priorities, and we expect that budget will increase as the condition of our sidewalks start to deteriorate a bit.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you're looking at a 5-year plan. As I was campaigning out there was quite a bit of concern with some of the sidewalks, and I've highlighted those. So if they get repaired, that's great. I just know that the costs are going up and there's more sidewalks. So it's good to hear that you're looking at more of a long term and seeing how the numbers factor themselves out. Just one final question. Just as I was reading through the report, it didn't specifically answer this question, but it's a very simple one. Currently, when there's a new house built, do they pay for their water meter?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, they do at the building.
Okay, yeah, because I saw here that we're looking at potentially upgrading some of them, and all the owners originally back in the 90s paid for the water meters. I just want to make sure the new homeowners are also paying for that, so it's not falling on all the other ratepayers. So I'm glad to hear that answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further questions for staff? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'm not sure who this is going to be directed to, or if it even has to be directed to anybody, but we've talked about climate change and stormwater runoff and infiltration, and now we're seeing the numbers as well, as not just the effect it has on climate change, but the numbers that bring a cost to taxpayers. So we should be looking perhaps a little bit more closely at building permits and properties that are in essence concrete jungles that don't allow for water to flow anywhere but down into the drains and sewers. So this just might be a comment on my part for people to start thinking of how we might be able to address this in the future, so that we don't keep eliminating possibilities where stormwater and infiltration can flow and instead of down into the sewers. So
thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Ham.
Just maybe a little bit of the insight. The infiltration isn't from new development. The infiltration is because we have sewers out there that are 85 years old or 70 years old, and they're in need of replacement, as was the concern in Thorold South, where we spent millions of dollars trying to rectify the problem. So that's where our issue is. Our issue is that we have aging infrastructure, and we're actually going at a pretty good level if you looked at the budget for replacement, but we're not at the full replacement, because I think we're at a 80-year replacement plan now. If I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Jeff or Maria, is it a 75 or 80-year replacement?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, and it depends on really the area and you know, the type of use. And we had an emergency sewer repair on Friday night, Saturday morning.
Yeah,
on Pine Street.
Yeah.
And it's just a result of the age and type of pipe material that's, you know, getting close to the end of its useful life. Yeah. It is, and I don't want to kind of overgeneralize it, but growth does have an impact, not just because of the additional flows coming from the new homes, but also, you know, during construction, when the lot grading isn't completed and there's a lot of inefficiencies there, that water gets into the sanitary sewer and not necessarily into the storm sewer, which drives our flows quite a bit. And you can see the correlation between the storm events and the flow volumes in our sewer system. So that tells you that there is an impact from infiltration and inflow. Infiltration shows up a little bit further down the timeline, inflow shows up right away, and we're starting to see both of those areas climb.
And I could just say, just for council, some of them may not know this, but we did do 3 combined overflow separate sewer projects in the city of Thorold years ago on Lawrence Drive, Vahiti Clancy, Sydenham area, to try to rectify the problem with the inflow.
Yeah.
So we're addressing it and that stuff, and it's got really nothing to do with climate change. I think it has to do with aging infrastructure.
There is one thing which we do now too with our asset management plan when we're doing roads, you know, we make sure we go in and we're doing infrastructure and roads and utilities so that we're not digging up roads again later. So I think we're getting a lot better with our long-range planning.
And at the time of the old infrastructure, we didn't have separate sewers.
Yeah.
It was combined sewers. So your raw sewage and your rainwater was going into one pipe, which was ending up in Port Weller. So we were treating the storm sewer. With all new developments, that's now separated, with a lot of it diverted to overflow tanks or basins or draining directly into the Welland Canal.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything further? Go ahead, Councillor Diaz.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the region still have programs? I know when I was a regional councillor, I pushed for programs for the CSO tanks and for sanitary and storm replacement sewers. Do they still have those programs?
There's still programs, but there's so much budgeted until it runs out, right? So it's not an unlimited fund.
No, but if you could, you and our regional councilor, if you can push for more of that funding to go to local municipalities, because it's the region that benefits. Every time a new pipe is put in and there's no infiltration, it's less flows going to the waste facilities that deal with this. So if we could stop it from going in, because a CSO tank doesn't, it's a holding tank. It still ends up going there. It goes over time as opposed to all at
It's a
once.
slow release.
Yeah, it's a slow release. So I would push again for more programs to help local municipalities. And those, because there was cost sharing up to 75% on some of those programs. So if it could push some of our replacement sooner than later, it helps us financially so that we're not getting dinged at the end. So if you and Councilor Whalen can
We
push
do,
that,
and we
that
do.
would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
It's a point well taken. Okay, any further questions? I need a mover and a seconder for this report. I got a mover, Councillor D'Angelo, and a seconder, Councillor O'Hare. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. FES 4 2023 dispatch repeater replacement. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Hanley. I'm going to turn this over to Manoj Dowaria because our fire chief's out on a call this evening. So I'll turn this over to...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that council approve the purchase of the repeater from Talk Wireless Inc. And the second, that the purchase be funded from the encumbrance reserve for the amount of $12,745.09 plus HST be approved. Thank you.
Is there any questions regarding that report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. FES 05 2023 capital project budget overruns. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this report? Councillor Longo and Councillor DeRose. And I'll again turn this over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that the council approve the 2022 capital budget overrun, that the amount of $1,126.87 for hose and appliances overrun be funded from encumbrance reserve, and the amount of $1,087.78 from extension equipment overrun be funded as a general budget overrun be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That's the end of items for consideration. Notices of motion. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've got two. The first one, I just wanted to bring a notice of motion for next meeting. And there is no rush because I'm looking to have this done for next winter season. Just to get a consistent policy with council's input in regard to ticketing strategies before a major snowfall. Can I talk? I can't talk on it now.
Well,
no?
you
Okay.
can when you bring the notice next
so
meeting. Okay.
So.
Okay, and so that's one, and is that it? Or
Yeah, that's my first one. The second one, is there? I know they're taking out the ice soon at the arena. Jeff, could you verify the date the ice is going out of the Doherty Arena?
Good evening, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
To Councillor DeRose. I'm just checking.
Dave, go ahead.
Even just a ballpark.
Yep. So it is coming out the Monday, the 27th, the afternoon of Monday, the 27th this March.
Okay, and the Brock Arena, how long is that going to be in for? Or one of the ones we have access to at Brock, Walker Brothers?
Yeah. The ice comes out there. One pad, I believe, is the end of April.
Okay. I know we've discussed try to utilizing time that we're paying for that's not being. Is there any do we have any? I can't remember if we asked.
But is this a notice of motion that you're
Yeah.
going to bring? And so
A notice of motion is if we can extend the senior skating that was at the Doherty Arena
Up
over
to
to
there.
the Brock Arena.
Okay, so that'll be your notice, but also that's a good one, because I think if the ice is gonna be in there.
Yeah.
That's,
But-
can we look into that, even prior to him bringing that notice of motion, and then maybe we can deal with it all at that meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great, because it is time sensitive. The season's gonna run
And
out.
they may be able to do something on that prior to even that coming to council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
It's a good one. I've been asked that same question. Go ahead. Well, is that the end of your notices of motion? Do you have any notice of motion?
I just want to clarify the ice, because I know one pad's coming out March 29th, and the other one is in there till April. And Mr. Mayor, can we waive our rules of procedure and just deal with this issue? And this way we could give a staff direction.
That's, I'll accept that.
Because of the timing of it, we're almost.
So you want to look at utilizing the pad that's in for some senior skates, and
Yeah,
you're
even-
gonna second that? And staff will look at that, and if we can do it, let's get it done, because if we have hours there, let's utilize them. Okay, so,
And Mr. Mayor, even if there's open time where no one's using it, kids skating,
yeah.
right?
Well, let's look at other skating
Where you
options.
can, adult and kids. 'cause-
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
we're gonna do that. We got a motion, a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So we don't need to bring that notice of motion. Just the one notice of motion.
So, Mr. Mayor, that's just the, to put it on the floor, so that's your 2/3 majority to put it on the floor. So
You're
now
right.
you need.
You're exactly
You
right.
gotta
Okay,
vote
so
on the
first of all,
procedure.
we need a two-thirds majority to waive the procedure.
So you had
We're only
unanimous-
voting on waiving the procedure, then we'll vote again on that motion, okay? All those in favor? That's carried, and again, the motion, all those in favor? Opposed, that's carried. That's correct. We had to waive the procedure first. Okay, that is good. So now we're on to motions. External consulting costs for 2022, that's Counselor DeRose, and do you have a seconder for that? Counselor Sentence. Okay, go ahead, Counselor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it's pretty self-explanatory, but just, I'm concerned, just, reading what the federal and the provincial government, and I had a conversation with Vance Badaway, and he said, hey, we do hire a lot of consultants. He goes, check with your city. So I'm just curious. I'm not trying to throw any darts at anybody, but I just want a ballpark figure of how much we spend in a year on the average. So I guess going back 2022, so just 1 year, but just out of curiosity. And so that's the motion.
That's a motion. You had a seconder, Counselor Sentence. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Counselor, you had a second one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. That staff be directed to provide a report respecting an update on the declaration of emergency declared in 2022 in the city of Thorold for mental health, homelessness, and addiction. And my rationale, Mr. Mayor, because I was the one that passed it and I've become familiar with some of the people that are in this dire situation, some of my weekends I've been getting some crazy texts and calls. I've been trying to help a few homeless people. This kind of ties into Bill and Carrie's presentation. And I thought there was 2 homeless people that were pretty desperate. I thought I had a place for them with an organization, and the employee gave me the wrong info. I confirmed that they had a place to go to, and it turned out when the CAO of the organization was away on vacation, and when he got back and told me, no, the employee was wrong, it's a 2-year wait. And when I had to explain it to these people, days later I'm getting texts from them about, they want to commit suicide, or they're looking for assisted suicide. And it's just tearing at my heartstrings to hear this and getting this. And you don't know how to respond. Unfortunately, one of my sisters just retired, fused the head at psychologist, the Oshawa General. So I've been leaning on her for advice how to deal with. But it's getting prevalent in our community and in the Niagara region with homelessness, addiction, and mental health disorders. It's even prevalent at the elementary schools. It's really, really COVID's taken everybody for a loop, and I hope we can get back to how it used to be. But right now, people are really struggling. So I just need to get an update and a direction, if you can add that, Matthew, to it, of what our plan of action will be going forward.
So we're working closely, just so you know, with the region, because it's a regional responsibility that
Correct.
we should be involved with, don't get me wrong. But, there's a lot we're doing because, you know, the region has declared, okay? So now everybody's working together with the municipalities and the region. So, but we will definitely do that. So
I appreciate
you had your
that.
hand up, Councillor Long?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you touched on the region there, because, you know, I don't know how much staff can do for us at this point, but I'm thinking if the region gets to a point where maybe somebody can come and be a delegate here, give us a presentation on what's being done, and
Kathy Cousins would be a good resource.
yeah.
Eh? No, Kathy Cousins, that's her portfolio.
So that would be my suggestion. We
Good.
get somebody
Yeah.
from the region to give us an update on what they're doing.
Sounds good. Was duly noted?
So do you want to change the motion?
No, that's just a staff direction.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say also, when this agency explained to me there's a 2-year wait for them, and then I found out there's a 2-year wait at Pathstones for students, you know, it totally caught me off guard. And I think that's a great idea Councillor Longo brought up about bringing someone in. But also, I was told by the agencies to call a 211 number, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but I did, and this is 3 weeks ago, and I still have yet to hear back from them. So just to let you know, so is that a region thing, the 211?
There's a card that I know we handed out.
Right.
It's a hotline.
And I left a detailed message. I actually left 2 messages 3 weeks ago, and I've yet to hear. And now I've kind of lost contact the last few days with these people, so I don't know what to think of it. But if we can, maybe I'll make a call this week and just check why they're not getting back to people. But thank you.
Okay, so I had a mover. Do I have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Sentence. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Well, I'm glad Councillor Longo brought that up. I don't think our staff should be spending a lot of time on this issue. The experts to this field are at the region. They have the resources for it. So having them come here, explaining some of the programs that are out there that they offer, who to contact, I think would be beneficial to everyone, us as council, but also all the citizens when they watch the show, because I know there's thousands that watch this TV episode, so they'll be able to pick up more information.
I think that's the best path forward. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to advise Mr. Mayor, not long after we passed the declaration, we did reach out to the region about this. They didn't have time at present or at that moment to come and speak to us, but they did circulate a memorandum to council, which was sent through council correspondence. I can recirculate that just so that everybody's aware of it, but we'll reach out to them again about their availability now in the new year to potentially come and speak to council.
Sounds good.
Mr. Mayor, do you still need report then, or the
Yes.
presentation will suffice?
Yeah, I would like a short report, just a brief report about if we've done anything or.
Sure. Through Mr. Mayor, what we have done is when we have declared the emergency, our CEMC, or Fire Chief Terry Dixon, has been following it up with the region, and then now region has declared the emergency. So we don't have expertise to address it. What we have done is we have been speaking with the region just to put this issue in the forefront. So from our standpoint, if we write a report, it will be based on what we hear from the region. It's not anything that we are bringing to the table. So if the regional staff is coming in here, I'm just saying that let's listen to them. If you want something, for staff to write it afterwards, we can do it. But it's not going to be first-hand information from us. It will be the knowledge that we will receive from the region, we are going to incorporate in the report. So that's what I'm saying is if you are satisfied with the presentation that the regional staff is going to do you still want the report from us?
No, that's fine. And the thing I just want to know is going forward, I know Councillor DeAngelo just said, staff shouldn't spend any time on it. Well, I kind of disagree, because if staff's spending time on reports on 15-minute cities, I think they could spend a little bit of time on something that's so necessary in our city right now. But even if it's just reaching out to the region, let's just what's our plan of action? We can't just say, oh, we're gonna just throw everything to the region. You know, I just say we need a plan of action, and if it's to go through the region, then let's get them to present a plan of action. I can ask that night when they show up.
So, and
Yeah,
you
so
know,
you don't
'cause
have to write
you've
anything
called
up.
You've called me before, and I got you in touch with Kathy, and
Right.
she sent the people out.
Yeah,
They do respond.
yeah, no, she was great.
So
She was great.
That's why I think she would be a good resource to
Right,
come to.
and then we'll find out what her plan of action is for our community.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Dean.
My comments weren't to say that staff shouldn't do anything. I'm just saying they don't have the expertise in this field, so you have to go to the experts to get the information of what we can help. So on that line, we shouldn't just ask the region to come and present. We should also ask Pathstone, their CMHA, if they're all helpful organizations. But do you know do we all know exactly what they do? Probably not. So we should reach out to them to come and do a presentation too, if they're amenable to it. So we're not just waiting for the region. There's other sources of moving forward, trying to get information so that it could be helpful. And those are just two. I'm sure there's
others.
There's others. So let them spread their word in the sense of what they can offer, how they can help, so that people that are struggling have a number to call or a person to talk to. There's also Distress Center of Niagara. They're another online help phone organization. So they would probably be more than encouraged or be more than willing to come and probably present to help people understand what they're doing and how they can help.
Okay, point well taken. Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
I agree with Councillor DeAngelo there, and maybe our CAO can come up with a list of these agencies we can reach out to, or even, Manoj, do you think it'd be beneficial to formulate a letter to the provincial and federal governments? I know we've done that many times and probably don't get much out of it, but just to let them know that we need help.
Through you, Mr.
These
Mayor,
people-
I
these
agree
people
that it
need
has
help.
to be a multi-pronged approach. So certainly we will connect with the region. We also work with Pathstone, so certainly we can ask them to come. And then they can highlight the difference between mental health, and region can focus on affordable housing, homelessness, and all the other aspect of it. So yes, it's a multi-pronged approach. So we will, if council so desire, if you want us to write it to the provincial and federal government, certainly, even if we have done it in the past, we can do it again. Thank you.
We just did it from the region as well, just so you're aware.
Yeah, just the more they hear, the more they're gonna know.
I think that this correspondence from the region's coming to our council, and then we can endorse it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none. I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Closed session? Do we have? Okay. I don't have to read this because every counselor's here, correct? Okay. Closed session. That council do now move into closed session for the purposes of receiving information of a confidential nature respecting a matter respecting a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board under section 239 2C of the Municipal Act 2001, Kiefer Mansion property. And 2, a matter respecting personnel matters about an identifiable individual under Section 2B of the Municipal Act 2001, public member. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? Councillor Decker, and I got Councillor O'Hare. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, so let's take a few minutes, clear the chambers, and then we'll get ready for closed.